Hello, Wendy Rodrigue here. I like to visit with you on these videos on days that have significant meaning for me, for George. And today is a special one because it is our wedding anniversary. We were married 26 years ago today on Jefferson Island in New Iberia. It was a beautiful day. There were tulips. Anyway, what I wanted to share with you about today is George's name. It seemed like a good time to do this. I get asked a lot about the name Rodrigue. I get asked a lot about it with regards to myself. There's some confusion there about what name I go by. And so I thought I'd just address all of that today. So the name Rodrigue is a very strong one. It became a very strong design element within George's work. The name, as my understanding is, goes all the way back to the 1600s. And was originally a man named Jean Rodrigue. I have trouble rolling those R's. Rodrigue. And he fell in love with, and presumably, and married a woman named Anne Leroy from Paris, France in the 1600s, as I said. And they became some of the pilgrims then that went on to settle in Beauport, Canada, in the area that would become known as Acadiana. And in order to sound more French, they dropped the S, and the name became Rodrigue. Now, by the time Le Grand Arrangement came along in 1755, which would of course be the exile of the Cajuns from that part of Canada by the British, the name had already been around as Rodrigue for about 100 years. George was descended from 4 Rodrigue brothers, who left Canada in 1755 and ended up first in New Orleans and then finally in Lafourche Parish and the area of Chack Bay. And at some point in the 1800s, a group of them then moved into the New Iberia area, which is where George grew up. Now, the name Rodrigue, it's interesting because George's mother did not say Rodrigue. She said Rodrigue. And she also would not call herself Cajun. She was very proud of being French. Her father actually came to New Iberia directly from France. And so that was the history she clung to. She was always upset that George called himself a Cajun artist. And he was very proud to be Cajun. The irony here is that George's mother was as Cajun as anybody because her father was a Rodrigue. And George's father's father was, let me make sure I have that right. George's mother's mother was a Rodrigue, and George's father's father was a Rodrigue. So they were first cousins, in other words, George's parents. And the Rodrigue name, the Rodrigue history was very important to George. He pronounced his name Rodrigue, which is why I do that today. Now, with his Cajun paintings, George pretty much hid his name. It would, be this, he signed his paintings, but it was usually the same color paint as the background, so it kind of blended in. But there are a few changes to that as he started doing posters. So if you see things like this, these are his Ducks Unlimited pieces. These were large posters that he would then add his name as a design element. So it became more of a design element than it was a signature. The signature became as strong as, say, the oak tree. Look here, in these French posters of Evangeline. Or, for example, the Acadiana Symphony Orchestra. Anyway, his name very, very much became a design element in those Cajun posters. Now, as the Blue Dog developed, George began using his name much more boldly. So we have paintings like this one, which he did for the windows of Neiman Marcus and Bergdorf Goodman in the late 1990s. And look at the name Rodrigue. There's nothing hidden about that whatsoever. He has very much echoed, obviously, the red within this painting, but also the very strong design and fluidness. within this painting. Fluidity, I guess I should have said, within this painting. And then he especially used it again within his prints. See, George in his lifetime made very, very few prints from his Blue Dog paintings. Instead, he did pieces like this, which are original silk screens. There is no painting of this. So we really only started producing prints of the paintings more frequently after his death. He instead wanted to design the prints like this. Now this one is a reproduction from after George's death. This was done in 2016 to commemorate the 25th anniversary of the Gallery Blue Dog in Carmel, California, which closed just a couple years ago after 28 years. I thought this would be a particularly special one to share today because it has this strong Rodrigue design. George designed this piece in 1991, which is when the first version was done. And as I said, it didn't come from paintings. He actually used tracing paper, a different piece of tracing paper for every element within the piece, including this very large Rodrigue to make it, you know, much more than a signature, although the same type of signature as, say, the Blue Dog became, right? The subject. Rodrigue is as much the subject as the Blue Dog. People used to come in the gallery. I worked at the Carmel Gallery for many years, and when they would come in and they would say, Blue Dog, I've seen this before, and I would say, it's Rodrigue. It's Rodrigue. So just a few more things. I thought it would be fun since this is our anniversary. First of all, George, okay, our wedding ring. I don't know if this is going to show up on the film or not, but for our wedding ring, George actually melted down gold. He carved the name Rodrigue in wax and surprised me with this ring. He took the diamond from a ring he had had for years, his crawfish ring, and he put it in here and made this ring for me. He melted the gold from some jewelry he had that he didn't wear any longer and made this piece. I asked him, we had the discussion a few weeks before our marriage, how he felt about our name, his name, and me taking it. And he expressed to me that it was important to him that I have his name. And that meant a lot to me. And so I legally changed my name to Wendy Wolf. Wolf is my maiden name, Rodrigue. And this was my ring, is my ring. He went on to make a number of jewelry pieces for me. For example, he designed this magnificent belt. Cool, huh? Really cool with, there you have it, Rodrigue. And of course it's got the Blue Dog on the edge there too. With the horn-backed alligator. And then also the earrings. So I wore a pair of them here. I haven't worn these in many, many years and thought this was perfect time, Rodrigue. And there are a few other pieces here too on this plate. I don't know if they'll show, but there were just many. And he really focused on the idea of my name. And what is most special about these pieces is that the person who made them is filming this for me right now and is my husband today, Douglas Magnus. So George worked with Douglas to make these magnificent pieces for me with Rodrigue. And then I thought this would be kind of fun to show you another example. George and I used to love to go to those paint your pottery places. And you can see here too, this is much more than a signature. It is a design element, as with the silkscreen, as with this painting, as with the Cajun Festival posters. Every bit as important as the rest of the imagery. Rodrigue, the name, the strength of it, the history behind it. Very, very important to him and to me, I have to say. And then to end, by the way, I wore this one too. This is a Jolie Blanc. I just thought it was appropriate because it was a wedding gift from some longtime friends of George's. This is a piece of jewelry that George made around 1980 from his original painting of Jolie Blanc of 1974. And they gave it to me as a gift, to us as a gift on our wedding day, because there were no more around. There were only a handful made and they had all sold. So, and I thought I'd end with a very short reading. I promise Douglas it's short. To end this, George and I did several books together, about a dozen of them actually, but this was the one that was most obviously appropriate today, Blue Dog Love, which is from 2001. The publisher sort of described it as a love letter to each of us, husband and wife. But I wanted to read to you what George said. My artwork and my career have always been very personal and self-contained. I consulted no one about my business. I took no advice about my painting. I did things most people thought I shouldn't or couldn't do. And despite the fact that I always seemed to be surrounded by other people's opinions, I still lived my life with utter independence. Then out of nowhere, I met someone who shares my love for art and who lives with the same independence as me. We both knew from the beginning that we were very much alike. I could draw and create, and she would understand where I was going before my thoughts were concrete. That had never happened to me before. Her opinions mirrored my own thinking. There was no energy lost when explaining something because by the time I tried to put my feelings into words, she already knew what I was going to say. When I share my ideas with her, they have increased potential to take shape and to expand because she never inhibits me. In so many of my paintings, I have tried to show that different shapes and colors can harmoniously combine to form a visual statement more powerful and more joyful than the sum of its parts. Even though I paint my ideas with my own two hands, the center of my life, the love in my life, is always in the background, supporting me. This is why my name remains Rodrigue, even as my name is also Wolf, and most recently, and most special, Magnus. And I embrace all of them. I answer to all of them. And thank you for letting me remember George in this special way on our special day. Signing off now, Wendy Ann Wolf Rodrigue.